transform how you work with technology? Our Python essentials for MLOps, DevOps, and AIOps codes will unlock the secrets of streamlined development, intelligent automation, and efficient operations. As you progress in your learning journey, you'll be mastering the Python fundamentals, discover the file automation strategies, conquer the command lines with ease, and even deploy the infrastructure like a pro. And this curriculum has been carefully designed so that as a learner, you'll be learning everything in a hands-on manner. This will unlock your potential in building the practical tools, scripts, and the pipeline that will amaze your team. You'll be diving into the package management, Docker, CI/CD workflows, and even the AWS fundamentals that will make you to be confident in implementing everything over the cloud. So take your skills to the next level with in-demand expertise in MLOps, AIOps, and even you'll also get a bonus content on the monitoring the applications as well. So by the end of this course, you won't just use technology, you'll own it. So stop struggling, start excelling, and upgrade your career. My name is Murthy from Manifold AI Learning. I look forward to seeing you on the class 1. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining in. I hope you're able to hear my voice. So can you please confirm whether you can hear my voice? Perfect. Thank you, Dheeraj. Thank you, Diksha, Rakshita. Thank you, Khalid. Okay, thanks a lot, team, for confirming. Okay, so give me a second. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in on this live session with Manifold AI Learning. My name is Nachiket Murthy, and I'll be your instructor for this session. Now, okay, so folks, can you also please confirm whether you can see my screen? Uh, just to reconfirm, guys. Okay, Rakshit, perfect. Okay, thank you, guys. Okay, Samiksha, Samskruti. Okay, Kavya. Excellent. Thank you, team, for confirming. Okay, so welcome everyone on our learning journey today on understanding the generative AI, the impact of generative AI on our day-to-day life, and how we can uh, make ourselves ready to ensure that we'll be on a right track for our future. Now, guys, as you have already seen with the latest developments that's happening, the world is moving in a super fast pace. The artificial intelligence, which was once a fantasy, which we used to watch it in science fiction movies, it's actually a reality right now. It's here, it's growing, and it's not just about playing the games anymore. Like, it's not about just playing the chess, or it's not just about playing a specific game and beating a human. It's not just about playing the games these days. It's more than that. Now, these days, with the applications such as Gemini or Chat GPT, it can write articles, it can create code, it can create videos, it can design websites, it can create codes for the software, it can write the test cases, and the possibilities are endless. Now, you have seen a lot of websites and a lot of news articles about how the impact of generative AI on our day-to-day life and our, like I would say, the way in which that we are executing the job. So it's going to have a lot of impact, and we are already seeing a lot of impact these days as well. So with the generative AI, most of the jobs which was, I would say, in high demand, it's not valid anymore. To give you an example, in the case of content creation, let's say for the task of machine translation or transliteration, where someone had to listen to the audio and create a text, those jobs are not valid anymore. Now, with the pace that we see right now, the question is no longer as if your job will be affected, but it's more about these days as when your job will be affected. So the important question that we need to ask ourselves is, are we ready for this AI revolution? Are we prepared to compete with the machines which are able to learn faster, which is able to learn, I think it can analyze the complex data and never get tired? Now, that's the question that we need to ask. Now, with this question in place, with all that's happening right now, I'm sure you would feel like, okay, the future is uncertain and we don't have any power. But let me tell you guys, we have a power to control. Now, what you can do right now, okay, what I would recommend it is to think about is how you can use the AI as a tool instead of considering it like a competitor or someone who is there to take away your job. So think about it. Let me just give you a quick illustration as how this AI can be like thought about as a tool instead of treating something as something which is like an enemy. So let's assume that you're someone who is thinking about, let's say, writing the code, or who's into the development, okay, who's into the front end development. Now, if you're a person who's in the development field and who writes a test code or who writes the code in HTML format, now what you would generally do is you will have a lot of templates that you would create, and then based on the template, you will code everything, and then you will prepare something like, okay, this is how my overall page would look like. Now, with these AI tools in place, what we can now do is, I'm sure you might have experienced it, you can provide your requirement to the generative AI, which will do the hard work and generate the content for us. Let's take up an example. Let's say I would say that generate a code for creating a homepage in HTML. So this would go ahead and generate the code for us. That means whatever the work that you as a developer that you used to do it at the earlier times as how to write the code and writing these things, typing these things. Okay, so it's like you no longer have to spend time. So you no longer have to spend time on these tasks which generative AI can actually do it. And not just that, let's pick up some examples. Let's say you have developed some code. Let me do one thing. Let me just take one of the code from one of the courses that I have got. Let me do one thing. I'll just select one of the notebook that we have got. Let's assume that you have created a code and you want to understand what is present in that code and you want to improve the documentation. Let's say this is one of the code that we have got, which explains the deep learning neural network. Now, what you can do is maybe this time I'll use a different application. Let's say I'll use the Gemini. So I'll say, help me understand the code. Let's say you are someone who do not have the information about what is happening in the code, but still you want to debug this. And you are new to the project and you want to just go ahead and understand what is happening in that code. You just take the information from whatever the source that you have got. I've just got the code source code directly over here. I've just copied in front of you and I've pasted for my Gemini, and it is clearly describing what is happening in my entire code. It says that I've started loading the necessary libraries. I've started loading the data set. Then I've split the data set. Then we have performed some data normalization followed by the visualization, build a neural network, and it clearly describes what are those individual layers and its importance. And after that, it says I've performed the activity of compilation. Post compilation, I have performed the training. So, which means the computers are in a way which would help us to generate these kind of code. Let me just give you the example. Okay, now that I have provided this as a code, now I'll do some modification. I'll say that generate a similar code by considering the same task. Okay, incorporate it such that it works for the image which is of shape, let's say 100 by 100 comma 3. So the given data set that we have got, I think this individual data set contains an image which is of the shape 28 by 28. Now I'm asking that computer to generate the similar code using whatever the code that I have mentioned, right? Just consider that and go ahead and generate me a code. And if you take a look at it, it has absolutely created the code as per our requirement. See, it says import TensorFlow as TF. It has imported everything. It has created the split. Now, when it is generating the data, it is actually generating the data of 100 by 100 by 3 as like a placeholder. If we have our own data set, we can use that. And here in this case, for the completion of the code, it is generating some random numbers. Okay. And after that, if you take a look at it, there's an input shape which is of the shape 100 by 100 by 3. Now, on top of that, it has applied the various layers that we have got, and it has applied the loss function, and finally, it has generated the code for performing the model fit. So, what it means right now is the AI is here, and the AI is here to stay. And it's just a one example. I've just since I'm a data scientist, I work closely with the code and analyzing the data set. So this is something that I'm most familiar with, and you can see most of the tasks that we used to do can be automated. So what you have to focus on, irrespective on the field that you're working, first understand as how you can make use of the existing tool and be 10x productive or be 100x productive. So I'm sure there's a lot of errors or there could be a lot of scope for improvement. So over the period of time, it will get fine tuned and we'll have a better tool for sure in the AI. But it is here for us to stay. The reason is when the time comes that when the generative AI becomes a norm, just like we see the computers these days, like if you consider 50 or 30 years back, there was no concept of computer. Everything was doing manual. And when the computer came or when everything became digitized, so a lot of job roles got shifted. Like let me just give an example of a cashier. So previously there was a manual accounting, and now with everything digitized, some of those job roles would become invalid, had become invalid. The same thing that we are going through these days with the rise in AI. So first thing, use AI as a tool and not as a threat, so that in the job role that you're working in, you can be 10x or 100x more productive. And obviously, so once you understand how this generative tool, AI tool would work, if you're someone who is in technical domain, who wants to learn more about this generative AI, then at that time, I would recommend you to start investing yourself. So start investing yourself in upskilling, reskilling to ensure that you understand not only as an end user, but also understand what is happening in the backend. Now, when you provide as an input over here, like a prompt, which is basically an input that you're giving it for this generative AI application. Okay. So whenever you provide this as an input, this generative AI is generating the response. It's important that you need to build the intuition on the technical details as what is happening in the backend. Okay, so those are some of the key things that you need to focus on in order to ensure that you become future ready. Now I can see a few questions in the backend. Let me just go over one by one. So Ayaz says, is it recorded? Yes, Ayaz. So this session is getting recorded, and let me just confirm, guys. And like all the sessions recording and the learning, this session's recording will be made available to you on the Manifold AI Learning website. Let me share the link over here in the chat window for everyone. So once the session is completed, you'll be able to access the workshop contents over here by accessing this link, and you'll be getting the complete access for the current webinar as well as our previous webinar sessions that we have conducted. Okay. Now, uh, there's a question from Azrin. Azrin says that if you can just ask Gemini and ChatGPT whatever we need, why we need learn AI. Now, that's a good question, Azrin, and I would say that's a valid question that everyone would have. Now, the thing is, as an end user, so you're 100% sure, as an end user, I can ask a question, I can provide a prompt, and I can go ahead and generate the response, and I can be 100x more productive. That's completely sure. And if you're someone who ensures that okay, you can make use of this tool and be 100 exponential, that's definitely a path. Now what I'm talking about is for the learners, because most of the learners that who joins the webinar, it's not just about interacting with these tools as an end user, but also understand what is happening in the back end, so that as these tools becomes normalized, okay, as these tools become normalized, we also require the AI engineers to work on these tools. Let's say a company wants to use, I'm just giving an example. Let's say there's a company called, let's say, company A. Now, this company A, they want to use the generative AI tool for their company so that for their company data, so that they can give a better experience for the users. Now, as an end user, you'll not be able to be a part of that most in-demand tech, because this is the AI tools which is in demand right now. Now, one problem is it has been trained on general data. Like for example, if I ask this tool as what is the favorite color of Azrin, it cannot answer because it's not trained on that, on the personal data. In the same way, if I'm working on a company, let's say Facebook, okay. Now, if I ask what is the Facebook leave policy, it cannot answer it. That means all these AI tools are trained on the general data. Now, if a company wants to use these AI tools as part of their product, we have to use the approach of fine tuning, or we have to provide the approach of rack based architecture, where we will provide a knowledge database. Okay, we'll provide the knowledge database, and based on the knowledge database, we would expect these tools which was trained on the general data to be able to answer our questions. Now that's where the in-demand skill set, that is the knowledge of how these tools would work, the knowledge of generative AI works in the back end, comes to the rescue, because these are the roles that are new roles that are coming up in the industry these days. Now the Google, the Meta, that is the Facebook team, and the OpenAI team, they are coming up with the various tools. Now in order to integrate it for the industry level, that's where the skill gap has arisen. So that's where upskilling yourself into these domains, technical details as how it works, will ensure that you become future ready. Okay. Now, any other questions, team? Perfect. Okay. Now that we have seen why do we need to learn, or why do we need to learn about this generative AI, now let's understand, if you are someone who is focusing on learning this generative AI, what are the key skills that he or she has to focus on, because that's very important. Unless and until you learn from the basics, it's very difficult to learn the advanced stuff. Now when we talk, first let me just give you a background about what is this, uh, like what are these tools, or what is this generative AI, and from there I'll take you to the roadmap for your preparation for this role of this generative AI. So there are various roles once you have learned these skills. So it will open up a lot of domains for you. Depending on your comfort level, you can prepare yourself for that individual roles. So let's see what do we have as part of our today's agenda. See, as part of our today's agenda, we would understand what is generative AI, the top skills to master for generative AI, and what is the pathway that is recommended to master the generative AI. And I'll also provide some of the additional resources that can help you to progress in this role for generative AI. So let's understand what is this generative AI. So when I say generative AI, the core idea is to enable the machines to understand and mimic the patterns in the data set. And here, like it refers to the like understanding what from our training data, and it is able to generate the new output which exhibits similar to my training data. Okay. Normally, in the case of machine learning, what happens is you'll have a data. Okay, you'll have a data set, and you will have some labels, which is basically the current machine learning models that we have got. I've got my training data set. I'll just give an example. Let's say I've got a loan data set. In this loan data set, I've got some features over here. Features are nothing but the information about the customer, like what is the age, what is the salary, credit score, does he have current EMIs running. So these will be the individual features of the given data set. And I'll also have the expected column, which is my output, which says whether the person loan has been approved or not in past. So we will have some kind of historical data like this. Now using this historical data, we are going to train the machine learning model, or it can be a deep learning model. And once we train this machine learning and deep learning model, we are going to deploy this machine learning or deep learning model. Once we deploy it, when we send any new data, okay, to this deployed model, this is going to generate the response. So this will generate the response on the new data that is being sent to this deployed model. So that's the overall process that we follow in the case of traditional machine learning or deep learning process. So you will provide a new features for which you want to generate the output, and you'll get the response. That's the core process of this traditional machine learning or a deep learning. Now, in the case of this generative AI, what I'll do is I'll provide a large text corpus. I'll provide large text corpus, and I will I will allow my computer itself to learn the pattern in this large text corpus. I'll give an example. Let's say I'll provide the entire text that I've got in the Wikipedia database. So Wikipedia has got the content of multiple domains and it has got the quality content. I'll provide the content of Wikipedia to my model, and the model will learn the entire pattern that is present in this text data. Now, once it has learned everything that is present in the Wikipedia, now, if I go ahead and ask the question, like for example, the question that we call it is called as, technically we call it as prompt. Okay. So we'll say, if I provide the prompt as what is machine learning, then since the model that I have got has been trained on large text corpus, it is able to generate the text. So this time it is generating the text. Last time, the example that I gave, it's a case of classifying my example, whether I have to approve the loan or not. Here, I'm going to generate the new content, which is similar to the one that it has seen in the Wikipedia database. So that's the idea of this generative AI. So the traditional models that we have got, it's designed for tasks like classification or predicting the real numbers or similar tasks. But here, the generative AI models are capable of creating the new content autonomously, just like the example that I've shown earlier. See, if you take up the example, so I gave one example. I provided one prompt which mentions what is my reference code that I've got, and by taking that reference code, it is able to generate a new code or a new content. So that's the idea about this generative AI. So in case of traditional models, it's more to do with generating the prediction or performing a certain task. But in case of generative models, it is able to generate the new content. And these new content are based on the data it has been trained on. Now, the input that you provide to the generative model is what we call it as the prompt. Okay, the input that we provide to the model is called as prompt. So with this generative AI, so it has actually opened up a lot of applications. It can be used in image generation, it can be used in image manipulation, text generation, text summarization, music composition, video generation, drug discovery, data augmentation, creative designs, creative arts and design, code generation. So it has opened up a lot of possibilities and a lot of applications. So we no longer have to remember about, let's say, the boilerplate codes that we generally used to create whenever we used to do it as a developer. As a developer, as a person who would write the code, so I'm sure you would agree. So most of the tasks that we'll be doing, okay, it's more or less to ensure that we follow the syntax. Now, if we can get that as a ready-made One, so it will boost the productivity, and these generative AI is able to generate those quality content because of the training data it has been exposed on. Now the question that comes to our mind is, how do we master this generative AI? So, like, as an end user, it looks pretty simple to interact with such generative AI tool, and as an end user, it's very simple. It looks very simple to ask any question and get the answer. Now, how can we understand the technicalities behind this generative AI? So let's understand this. So when we think about the generative AI and the ways to master this generative AI, see, one thing that you need to remember, to master this generative AI, it requires a structured approach. So, given the rapid advancements that is happening right now, and we see a new version of models that are being introduced, so it is easy to get lost inside a next big version that is happening in this generative AI space. Like recently the chat gpto or gpto model has been introduced. So as you start learning these foundation, you might feel like, okay, there are 10 different versions might be introduced. But remember, no matter how many versions might get introduced, the foundations would remain the same. So it's very important that you follow a structured approach given the advancements that is happening in this generative AI space. So first and foremost, if you're someone who is from non-technical background, okay, I would say start learning the basic Python programming. Now, we have not reached the point where you no longer have to write the Python program. I mean, we don't have such kind of maturity yet, at least in the application building. So we can make use of the generative AI application or generative AI to generate the code, but we as a human will always bring the value to the table because we know whether the code that is presented is part of our design or not. So you would still need to learn the Python fundamentals, the Python programming, and understand how it works. Now, once you master the Python, then you can start by understanding the foundations for machine learning and deep learning, which is basically gets back to the linear algebra, probability, and calculus. Now, why these foundations are required? Well, all your education, all your learning journey that you had so far. So it's like, I'm just going to generalize it because that's what we have seen in most of our education life. So all our learnings, whether it is linear algebra, probability and statistics and calculus, it was something to do with the textbook problem, and we wanted to solve a textbook problem so that we can get the output. That is what our education system was. But let me tell you, even the advanced generative AI models, whether it is a transformer architecture, even in those, these core concepts, let's say the linear algebra and the matrices that you have learned in high school, they are the fundamental parts over there. You'll be representing the data in a vector format. You'll be performing the data manipulation with the help of, let's say, input vector or a matrices. You'll have a input in the matrix format, and you will transform the matrix with the help of a vector, which is the same concept that you have learned in the high school. So you need to learn those fundamental aspects from the perspective of this advanced AI application. So understand the matrix operation, vector spaces, the eigenvalues and the eigenvectors, and coming to the concepts such as probability and statistics, whatever the output that is being generated, let's say, even if I take an example of generative AI, so in the back end, it is determining which word that it has to print based on the probability scores. Now, these probability scores, to get the intuition behind it, you need to have a strong foundation of probability and statistics. You need to have a knowledge about what are the probability distributions, Bayes theorem, the statistical inference, and then the knowledge of calculus. The advanced deep learning algorithm uses the gradient descent in the backend. Now, to understand the gradient descent, you need to have a basic idea of a derivative. It's not just about dy by dx and dy by dx, or d by dx of x squared is equal to 2x. It's not just about that. It's understanding its importance of this derivative and how is it related to our deep learning application. The concept of derivatives. the partial derivatives, which are crucial for understanding these optimization algorithms. No matter what the optimization algorithm that you might choose, it would still make use of the calculation of gradients, which is nothing but the derivative of the loss function with respect to the various parameters. And if you consider the complex deep learning, you'll be having billions of parameters. Now, all those will be using the derivatives in the back end so that they can be tuned. So these are the foundational aspects that you have to focus on from the perspective of generative AI. So some of the key recommendations you can refer to as the linear algebra. There you can check out some of the courses at Manifold AI Learning. So there's a course on linear algebra for data science and calculus, mastering the statistics and probability for data science. You can check out these courses at Manifold AI Learning page as well if you're someone who wants to take your learning journey further with Manifold AI Learning. But the core gist is you need to have these as a fundamentals in your learning journey. You can also refer to the course pages, prepare your own curriculum. You can take the help of generative AI, prepare your own curriculum, and take the help of this course curriculum and the generative AI, prepare your own curriculum and start preparing it. But the key idea is you have to start from the basics. You need to start from the basics and you need to master these basics so that have an idea as how these basics are related to the advanced application. Now, once you master your the mathematics, the strong mathematics for generative AI, you would then progress to the deep learning. So I did not specifically talk about the machine learning. The reason is machine learning involves the statistical algorithm, and it's important that you have the basics of machine learning. And you, if even if you do not have the basics of machine learning, you can also start with the deep learning where you'll understand the basic idea behind machine learning, and you can start with the deep learning basics. Since I'm focusing specifically on the generative AI, you can start with the basics of neural network and understanding the core concepts in the neural network, such as activation function, loss function, forward propagation, backward propagation, the optimization algorithms, and how these optimization algorithms are finding the values of gradients, what is the loss function that is being used, and how the values are fine tuned, the concept of overfed, underfed, hyperparameter tuning, adjusting these hyperparameters, and how these hyperparameters has an impact on the values of my output. So those are the key things that you have to focus on. And obviously, so when it comes to the applying the deep learning, so you can choose either TensorFlow or PyTorch because those are the two frameworks that we see in usage in most of the industries. So TensorFlow or PyTorch. So get a hands-on experience in working with at least one of the two so that you'll be familiar and you'll be confident in applying these. Now, if you're someone who is getting started, maybe you can also check out. I would highly recommend you to check out some of the key resources at Manifold AI Learning courses. You can check out the course page, prepare your curriculum so that you as a learner can progress in your learning journey. There are two courses that are available from Manifold AI Learning. One is Deep Learning Mastery with TensorFlow, and there's another course on PyTorch for Deep Learning Computer Vision. So these are the two courses that are available on the Manifold AI Learning page. I'll take you through the course page at a later point, guys. Okay, first we will understand the various aspects that you have to prepare. Then, once you have learned about it, the other core concepts that you have to learn are the generative models, fundamentals, and the basics of cloud computing. So the other important things that you have to focus on as a learner are the concept of autoencoders, the concept of GANs, that is generative adversarial network, how it actually works, and also some experience or some idea of working with cloud vendors like AWS, GCP, or Azure, whichever is the one, so that you'll be comfortable in implementing the solutions on the cloud. So the reason is with a lot of technological advancements that are coming in, when you want to create a POC for your client, whether you are using it as a freelancer or whether you are creating as a a consultant working in one company for the client of another company, you would require a resource where you can actually bring up the resources and bring down, scale up and scale down as and when the requirement of the project changes. And that's where the knowledge of cloud computing would come into picture. So maybe one resource that I can recommend is, like if you're someone who is in the cloud computing and who is into AWS, so you can maybe think about appearing for the certification, or at least learn the basics of cloud computing with AWS, and also how to apply the machine learning on AWS. So this is one resource that I can recommend if you're someone who wants to focus on the cloud computing as well as applying the machine learning and deep learning on the cloud. Then, once you have learned about how to work with the cloud, then the next comes is the understanding of the natural language processing. So, one of the important architecture that you have to know is the transformer architecture. So, you'll have to dive deep into the attention mechanisms, multi-head attention, and the positional encoding that we have got, which are one of the core components of this transformer architecture. And from the NLP standpoint, you need to understand about how these various language model would work, like the GPT, BERT, and how it actually works in the backend, and how these models are structured such that it is able to generate the output in an efficient manner. And also learn about the text generation techniques and work comfortably with the libraries such as the Hugging Face, so that you can effectively work with the text data in an effective manner. And also, like you have to know the basics of working with the text data, which involves techniques like tokenization, word embeddings, converting these text into the numerical format. And once you convert it into the numerical format, how you can implement it on the machine learning model, and the knowledge of RNN, LSTM. So all those knowledge would, like, do all those knowledge that you have to focus on, so that you understand not only from the traditional standpoint, okay, that is traditional NLP standpoint, but also from the transformer architecture as well. So these are the two courses that are present on Manifold AI Learning. One is Practical NLP from Go Zero from Hero, and the other one is LLM Ops with ChatGPT. These are the key resources that I would recommend from the Manifold AI Learning to progress further on your learning journey of this generative AI. Now, other recommendations that I would definitely do for each and everyone is implement the projects. And recently, I've seen one of the, like when you say implementing the project, I'll think about it in this way. Let's suppose that you're working in a front end or a front end website domain. Okay, you're working as a front end engineer. Okay, so that means you have some knowledge about the front end. Now, with the skill that you have from the front end, with the additional skill that you have gained from this various resources, okay, think about creating the project in combining your front end engineering concept with the generative AI, so that you can build a fully fledged application. Now, if you're someone who is in testing testing domain where you are into testing the various applications, so let's suppose you're working with the test automation, then in such scenarios, think about usage of generative AI, build a project which will help you to perform the testing in an effective manner. If even if you're in manual testing, think about the way in which this generative AI can help you to become more productive with the project that you would create. So start implementing the project with the already skill set that you have got, because most of the learners that I see, they already have a skill set of one or the other domain. So use that as an asset. Use that as an asset and implement the project. Now, when you start thinking about implementing for the projects, so since this generative AI is going to is going to be applied in each and every domain, when you have built a project, you're already adding the value in the role that you're working. You're already adding the value in the role that you're working, and that would be an asset for the company that you are working with. Now, if you're someone who's working in the ERP, let's say SAP or Oracle, so think about how you can automate most of the process that you would work over here with the help of generative AI. And there's a one question that I see from Azrin. What about IT infrastructure? How can we leverage this domain with artificial intelligence? So think of it in this way, Azrin. So we already have various tools that we have got for infrastructure automation. So we have got the tools such as Pulumi. I'm just that's one thing that I can that come out on my head. So we can make use of this Pulumi, like libraries such as Pulumi, to bring up the architecture, infrastructure over the cloud. So maybe like you can make use of various metrics that you would get, and based on these metrics you will make a call to the generative AI to take a decision. I'm just giving a very hypothetical example. Let's say you are going to uh, get the metrics from an infrastructure that is currently running, then take the help of generative AI to understand whether the server capacity is enough or not, and based on that generate a new code maybe. So this Pulumi already has a Gen AI integrated in that site. So you can generate a new code, and you can implement an automation which would like update the code of the infrastructure and bring up more infrastructure. That's one way. Or another way can be, if you're working in a like another way as simple can be, when you get those metric, make use of this generative AI and send an alert in the Slack channel saying that okay, this is going up, why don't you go ahead and take a specific action. Because this generative AI has been trained on large data set, you can directly make use of it in most of the applications. Since I'm not from the core infrastructure side, so my example might be very silly, but yeah, but that's the overall idea that I can come up right now. But the person who is working in the infrastructure side, who has got the Gen AI, can definitely improve a lot. So all these companies, the majority of infrastructure companies, they're already trying to integrate the generative AI as part of their application. And also participate in the Kaggle competition. So there are various generative tasks that we have got, and you can check out the Kaggle website and participate in those competition that would help you to increase your knowledge. And while participating in the competition, you'll be also able to uh, reach the other people who are having the same mindset that could help you progress in the learning journey. And since this is a rapidly evolving field, so if any new models get released, try to learn more, read the research paper so that you can stay updated in this generative AI domain. So once you find any research paper, maybe you can also make use of generative AI itself and ask them to summarize it so that you know what is happening. So when you know what is happening, you will be informed. And as you start learning more, the way that you would think about the generative AI is going to change. So instead of thinking something as the one that is going to there for as an adversary, like we feel like we start thinking like as a tool. So those are all the general guidelines that I would recommend for anyone who is thinking of getting started with this generative AI. Now, guys, so I'm sure you might be wondering as, okay, is there a way where this path can become easier? So what I would recommend is if you're someone who is thinking of getting started in this generative AI, I highly recommend you to check out the Manifold AI Learning. So there's a package in Manifold AI Learning that's called as Mastering Generative AI in 2024. So uh, this single course, by enrolling on this single course, you'll be able to get the access for the all the courses by Manifold AI Learning in this domain of generative AI. So this package includes various courses like Python programming for DevOps and MLOps, which will help you to take care of the basics of Pythons, especially from the working in AI and the ML projects. And this would also include the NVIDIA certification, which is one of the in-demand certification that we have got right now to prove ourselves on the knowledge of the generative AI. So that is included in this package. The generative AI NLP bootcamp, which will help you to master the fundamentals of natural language processing. There's a hands-on course on prompt engineering, which will help you to master how to work with the prompt, and how to be comfortable in working with these generative AI models. The course on practical Python for data science and machine learning bootcamp, which will help you to master the Python. The course on AWS cloud and the machine learning on the cloud. It also includes the courses on deep learning, on TensorFlow, as well as PyTorch, the mathematics basics, which includes the linear algebra, statistics, and calculus. And there's also a new courses that are coming in, which will be given as a free. And even if any new content that gets added to this package, you as a learner will be able to enjoy the free upgrades without any further cost if that is part of the generative AI topic. So in future, there is also a new upcoming course on generative AI interview guidance. You'll get the access for all these courses as I would say, a single time investment with manifold AI learning. Now, if you're someone who is into the self-paced and let's say you want to create your own curriculum, so I highly recommend you to check out these individual courses, check out the course page, and check out the curriculum. Okay, and think about how you can build your own curriculum. See, the advantage that you would get by enrolling in this package is someone has already done the hard work and they have placed the content in a sequential way so that on the next instant itself you can get started. And if you want to take the longest path, maybe you want to prepare your own curriculum, you're still welcome. So maybe it might take more time for you to succeed, but definitely I would highly recommend you to choose, irrespective of the path that you would choose, start thinking about mastering the generative AI, because the AI is here to stay. All right, guys. So with this, I think this was all what I had in today's session, guys. Now, if you're someone who's planning to upskilling yourself on this generative AI field, so do check out this course from Manifold AI Learning. And I wish you all the very best, guys. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining in on this session with Manifold AI Learning. And thank you so much for interacting with me and sending me some of the amazing questions. So, if you have got any questions on any of the topics that we have discussed today, please feel free to let me know in the chat window. I'll be there for few more minutes. So, I'll be happy to assist you guys. So, folks, if you're clear and if you do not have any further questions, please confirm by typing in as all good. Okay, thank you, Azrin. Thank you, Anirudh. Okay, thank you, Rakshit. And folks, I just want to remind you one more thing. So, we are conducting a webinar tomorrow as well. I think you'll get an email. This is about mastering the transformer architecture. Okay, let me share you the link uh, over here in the chat window. So go ahead and register yourself. So the transformers is one of the core part of the generative AI, and it's very important for the learners who are in this who are into learning this generative AI. So to learn about this transformer architecture, I've shared you the link over here in the chat window. So ensure that you register yourself so that you can join with us on the next session as well. Okay, and as I mentioned, you'll get the sessions recording. You can access the sessions recording by visiting the site manifoldailearning.in, and under the courses, register yourself on the Manifold AI Learning workshops. Okay, thank you, Dheeraj. That's great. I can see Lakshmikant has registered. Okay, thank you, Lakshmikant, and I welcome you on behalf of Manifold AI Learning. Okay, thank you. Okay, I see three more registration. Sangeeta. Okay, thank you, Sangeeta. We are glad to have you on board. Welcome to Manifold AI Learning. So, folks, I'll be there for a few more minutes. I see some queries related to registration, but I'll be there. Uh, if you're clear and you do not have any further questions, feel free to drop. Thanks again, everyone, for joining with me on this session. Yes, Sundarajan, that's correct. Okay, thank you so much, Sundarajan. Okay, let me see. Sundarajan says, Sir, I've made the okay. Registration, is it visible? Give me a second, Sundarajan. Let me check with the admissions team. Yes, Sundarajan. Yes. Thank you so much, Sundarajan, for joining in. And I welcome you on this generative AI course. Okay. So I'll be there for a few more minutes, guys. And I think you'll get an email confirmation as well. Don't worry. And we have folks from support team also on this call. So if you send any text message, they'll be responding you. Okay. So thank you so much again, guys. Okay. I'm glad, Sundarajan. Hey guys, just also wanted to check one more thing. Okay. So if you're someone who is joining in within 24 hours, you'll also get the additional 5% off when you start signing up on the site. So it's just a heads up. It's valid for 24 hours only. Get the most of this coupon code that we have got, guys. So if you click on join now, the coupon code will be applied automatically. So if you're someone who is thinking to join, I would say this is the right time to join. Okay, thank you so much again, everyone. I'll be ending the session now, and I wish you all the very best. So ensure that you start using the AI as a tool and ensure that you learn the technical details, irrespective of the sources that you use. Ensure that you become the future ready because that's what matters. So I wish you all the very best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.